Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegrand, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins head to Pittsburgh after getting absolutely destroyed by the New York Yankees, thinking this would be a great bounce-back series, but they dropped the first two. Dan managed to come back and win Game 3, but a very, very disappointing series, Dan Thompson.
I do like that they at least ended on a win. Makes the road trip look a little less bad coming home. But yeah, the first of 2 different 3-city road trips actually that they've got coming up here. But they're back at home for 3 series against the Rockies, the A's, and the Rays. And so hopefully they can make the progress that we hoped. But again, not getting swept, at least you avoid that fate against a Pirates team that can pitch pretty well.
I guess they could pitch pretty well. I mean, but we didn't have to see their new phenom, Dan. We saw all their guys who are just kind of their guys.
And poor Hogs, our third chair, was there for this was kind of his road series. And he had to watch them not score runs in back-to-back games, barely score runs in Game 3 until extra innings. So he'll actually be on the next 2 episodes after this one. So I'm eager to hear what he has to say about that trip. I will say this. He texted that he thought PNC Park was maybe the most beautiful ballpark he'd ever been to. And Hogs has been to a lot of stadiums. So that's saying something.
That is saying something, certainly. A couple of notes here about the Pirates. I 100% forgot that Michael Taylor was playing for the Pirates. I don't know who he was playing for because I know I've looked him up multiple times this season to see how his stats are. And I just never connected that he's playing for the Pirates.
I'm not dead.
But the thing is, he's actually, he hasn't played very well either. You know, at first I thought, Michael Taylor, remember how they could have had him instead of Manny Margot? And like, he's batting like 500 OPS. Like, he hasn't been good.
No, he was really good in April. Like, that's when we all thought a huge mistake was made because he was one of the best hitters in baseball in that first opening month. But since then, yeah, like you said, it's been a bit dismal. Another note here, Willie Castro, Dan. I don't exactly know what he did. He wronged somebody in Pittsburgh, maybe an ex-girlfriend who has connections to the team or something, but he got hit 4 times in this series. And the last time he got hit, he absolutely lost his mind, chucked his helmet, just screaming, "What are we doing here?" He was quite frustrated.
It wasn't like charge the mound frustrated. It was something different. We're going to talk about how the Pirates managed the end of Game 3 as well a little bit later on. I guess the Twins should play more extra inning games. They've only played 2 extra inning games, and I think they won them by a combined 50 runs. The way that they've been scoring in the 10th, 11th, and 12th innings.
Last note here before we jump into the recap. So my kiddo, my oldest, she'll watch the games with me from time to time, and she always asks which team we're cheering for, and she knows we cheer for the Twins. But she saw the Pirates, and she has a deep love of Pirates. So she saw the little logo, and she goes, "But why don't we cheer for the Pirates?" You know, she's very excited about this opportunity. And I said, "Well, you know, they're not Minnesotan, and we cheer for teams who are from Minnesota." And she goes, "Oh, so we're not Piratans." Which I just thought was so funny.
No, they've got it backwards. Tell them to turn it around.
It's our pirate sounder. That's all we got, I suppose, when it comes to those things. Well, anyway, with that, let's go in and talk about a couple shutouts and then a win in the recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, Dan. Everybody was upset. There was a lot of things to be upset at, though. Twins lose this one 3-0. The umpiring was absolutely terrible. It was on Apple TV. The announcers were ridiculous. There was so much wrong with this game, Dan, to make it hard to enjoy baseball, which should not be the case.
Yeah, what was the quote? If both sides are complaining about the umpires and they're doing a good job? No, that's not how this works.
You might just be bad umpiring. Like, that's the other option here. That doesn't mean, like, just because both sides think you're terrible. Like, I don't know how that automatically equates to. Clearly, you're being fairly bad.
No, like if one of my students complains that I'm not grading fairly and another one says I'm not grading fairly, that doesn't mean I'm doing my job well. That's the opposite. Anyway, let's go through this game kind of inning by inning here a little bit. Top of the first, it starts promisingly enough. Larnach doubles, Correa walks, but then no runs for the Twins, and this was a trend here, just not being able to get hits with runners in scoring position. Bottom of the first, Buxton makes a really nice play in center, though I'm always nervous when he dives, but he hit a beautiful swan dive, head up, I'd give him a 10 out of 10 on the slide. He did get up a little slow. It looked like maybe he got the wind knocked out of him, but he was okay. And then we saw, though, so the Pirates have some young talent, let's say. The bottom of the second, O'Neal Cruz, who earlier this season, we were talking about his bat speed. I think he's got the 2 hardest hit baseballs of the season this year. He gives the Pirates a 1-0 lead on a home run that was 114.2 miles per hour off the bat.
That's about as fast, Dan, as Aaron Judge hits every single ball that he hits.
Incredible. Bottom of the fourth, Joe Ryan, who had actually a really good start, loads the bases with 1 out, but allows just the 1 run. So it's only 2-0. He goes 7 innings, just gives up 2 runs on 2 hits, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts in 7 innings, getting his ERA down to 3.30. But the Twins end up, they're 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and they just can't get things going.
No, top of the 5th, they had the bases loaded for Lewis and Kepler, and they both strike out. Now, here's the thing. There were some calls that went against both Lewis and Kepler, but assistant hitting coach, who I didn't know existed, Dan, prior to this outburst, Derek Showman, was ejected by home plate umpire Paul Clemens. His first ejection of the season, Dan, and I'm guessing his last, because I don't know. That seems like a really odd position. Like, wouldn't you work pretty hard to not cause issue? You're the assistant hitting coach. You're not the manager. You're not the hitting coach. You're the assistant hitting coach, and you're getting tossed. Well, nobody knew who you were 2 minutes ago.
He's the sacrificial lamb here, which actually, it's funny you read it that way. I think it was Showman's first ejection. It was actually umpire Paul Clemens' first ejection of the season as well. Oh. So I thought that was kind of a momentous thing.
A double first. Maybe they worked together so that they would both get the recognition that they felt they deserved, Dan.
It didn't help Showman's cause, though, when Max Kepler swung at a pitch that hit him. A little bit embarrassing there.
And it wasn't like he swung and his momentum took him into the ball. No, it was going to hit him square in the leg, Dan. I don't understand what Max Kepler was doing. We're going to talk more about Max Kepler a bit later. But top 6, again, Twins have chances. Miranda's at first with 1 out. Buxton singles. Miranda to the third. And then Buxton ends up in a rundown because the left fielder for the Pirates, Brian Reynolds, throws this ball. Dan, again, what I tweeted was it was the equivalent of getting your ankles broken in basketball. That's what happened to Buxton because Reynolds faked the throw to third and just beautifully. It looked like he was going to go to third all the way, but he goes to second and Buxton gets caught in a rundown.
Clever girl.
It was a really nice play, and again, a key spot because it's only 2-0 at that point. Top of the 7th through the 9th, the Twins just get 1 base runner. It's a Buxton single. And then in the bottom of the 8th, the Pirates add a run on Connor Joe's home run. In the end, the Twins have 8 hits, 2 by Larnach, 2 by Correa, 2 by Miranda, 2 by Buxton. They never got them consecutively enough to really put together a rally. And then we go to game 2 that was also a shutout. The Pirates win this one 4-0. The bright spot, we're going to talk about him later, is Simeon Woods Richardson, who just has a great outing. A little soured at the end, and there is some traffic in the first 3 innings, but he works through it. Defense didn't help, though. I guess it came back and helped the Twins a little bit in game 3, or at least seemed to. Kirilloff lost a ball in the sun. Miranda misplay a ball at first. It's that Pittsburgh sunset, I guess, that was really getting the Twins here.
Very, very bright. And I know that can be difficult, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you guys got to figure it out when your pitcher is dealing and the offense has been terrible. You can't let any free base runners on.
No, and then the dark spot in this game is obviously the offense. 6 for 30 at the plate, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position, just 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and again, no runs. All the scoring is late for the Pirates. Rowdy Tellez, who apparently was getting booed by fans earlier in this game, he ends up hitting a home run that's just a little bit too high for Buxton, and then they get 3 more runs off of Duran in the 8th. We're going to talk about Duran's usage a little bit later. Yeah, just a couple other notes you wanted to talk about from earlier in this game too.
Bottom 6 to end the inning. This play actually goes to review, but Lewis cuts off a ball in front of Correa and throws to first for the out. And I guess, doesn't that feel funny to you? Because Correa is going to barehand the ball. Lewis, literally right in front of him, snags it with his glove and throws to first. And that feels like, you know when you meet someone and you hear their name and then you call them by the wrong name intentionally? You know, in high school when you meet a girl's boyfriend or whatever, you know, who you had interest in? It felt so funny to watch Royce Lewis be like, yeah, this is my team, Carlos. I'm going to go ahead and take these.
Are like onions.
I assume the sounder was coming sooner or later.
Well, yeah, that'd be there.
But wasn't that crazy? Because he did it again in game 3. He did it's literally the exact same play. He didn't get the out in game 3. But that just feels like you're not cutting off Kyle Farmer.
No, but I don't want him to be that deferential to Correa that if he can make the play, he should make the play, right? So I do like that about that. Now, Royce had an error. I believe it was in game 3 on a play he didn't make very well. But nevertheless, you want those guys to want the baseball. In that way, it's good.
I will remember this play for a while now, watching Royce Lewis cut off Carlos Correa. And then bottom 7th, Twins are threatening again with 2 on, but the second baseman for the Pirates, Gonzalez, makes this crazy good catch over the shoulder. He dives for it and makes a basket catch on Margot, which obviously would have changed the whole makeup of this game. But unfortunately, the Twins do end up coming up empty in the 7th inning as well.
But then there's game 3, and this is bright only really at the beginning and at the end. The Twins win this extra inning baseball game, 11-5. And like we said earlier, this was just their second extra inning game of the season. They actually score 3 runs in the first. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. Ober didn't have a great day. He probably could have pushed through, but he got into heavy trouble in the bottom of the 5th. And so he actually only goes 4 2/3, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 5K. His ERA is up over 5 now, and we can't just blame his starts against the Royals.
No, as much as we like to keep hanging our hat on that peg, that is no longer an option. So bottom of the 5th, what gets Ober into trouble, he goes walk, double, and then a bases clearing triple to Connor Joe. So then the Pirates take the lead 4-3. We do need to talk about Connor Joe. Him and Eddie Julian must have the same barber. They feel some loyalty to this man, that they can't get a good haircut. They have to go with whatever he gives them.
Oh, Canada.
It's the only other solution. Maybe he's Canadian. We should look up Connor Joe's background. But the Twins are able to actually tie this game up in the top of the 6th.
Also, not what you would expect Connor Joe to look like. If I just told you his name was Connor Joe, that's not what you're coming away with, Dan.
He's actually from San Diego, which you might have assumed that was right next to Canada. So I guess I should have just written that.
We'll talk about my geography later, Dan.
All right. Anyway, so like I was saying, the top of the 6th, the Twins tie it again with help from the Pirates. Jeffers singles, Castro's hit by a pitch, Santana walks, Lewis comes in again with the bases loaded and hits a sac fly. So at least he knocked in a run, but you felt in that moment, at least I felt in that moment, that the Twins were going to lose this baseball game.
When Lewis came up with the bases loaded and only a sac fly was the result, I assumed the Twins were destined for failure, certainly.
But hey, the Twins are able to get some good innings out of their relievers. Thielbar, Sands, Jax, Alcala, Duran all get through unscathed. And so we head to extra innings, even though the Twins had a chance in the top of the 9th, which I think we'll talk more about a little bit later too, with a leadoff double, thanks to the Pirates outfielder not being able to see the ball in the sun. But yeah, you squander a double and you don't get anything out of it. In the end, doesn't matter. The Twins win this game in extra innings, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And so they're now 34-31 on the season, just hanging on above 500.
Yeah, 8.5 back from Cleveland, 4.5 back from Kansas City, who still play Seattle later tonight. But Dan, it's looking more and more like if the Twins are going to make the postseason, it's going to have to be as a wild card team, which they currently do hold that second spot. Like I said, 4.5 behind the Royals, who hold that first wild card spot.
Well, they got a good run of teams coming up. They should be able to beat. So let's see. But let's go on here to Puckett's picks.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
All is right with the world, Dan. Things are back where they should be. Me at the top, everybody else far below.
Yeah, so you picked Correa. He had 8 points, which actually gets to the bonus as well. I picked Buxton, who had 1 point. Miranda to Hogues, he had 3. But Royce Lewis, go figure, -1 for the listeners. Listeners can't just catch a break. You now have 12 points on the season. Hogues has 7. I have 3.5, and the listeners have 2. I am way back in points. I've got 61 on the season. You have 97. Listeners have 82, and Hogues has 90. So I have a lot of ground to make up. You are just trucking on ahead.
It's good to be me. With that, Dan, let's go on to Beast versus Bench.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
Yeah, I got to go with SWR Dan here. Fantastic performance. He got to pitch to the order for a third time, which is not something that Rocco typically allows. He goes 6 1/3, 6 hits, 6 strikeouts. He's a guy, Dan, who as soon as he got that opportunity, he did not let it go. You feel kind of bad for Louis Varland, obviously, hometown kid and everything, but Varland hasn't done that much better at AAA. Like, we need to take that with a grain of salt because he's working on a few things, and it's a little bit less important to get guys out at AAA than figure out your mechanical issues. But SWR, Dan, he's in this rotation for the long haul at this point, which I do have to give props to you. You called would be the situation for the season.
I know. I only wish I had been bolder and said a little bit more about him there. That was actually his first loss of the season. I know he's not been allowed to be in games very long, and a lot of things happen after the 4th inning. But yeah, a great outing for him, even though he didn't get a win. I went with Manny Margot because of the extra base hit in extra innings of Game 3 that ended a ridiculous drought for the Twins. They were mired in something that was like a 3 for their last 40 or something with runners in scoring position when he finally got that that triple changed, obviously, the tenor of that baseball game, and it was kind of the unraveling that we'll talk about a little bit later. But happy to see him playing a little bit better.
Yeah, who do you have on your bench, Dan?
I went with Alex Kirilloff, who is apparently, this is kind of a homecoming trip for him, but he was 0 for 5 with a few strikeouts. This guy is in danger, I think, of getting sent down. And I think that the proof is a little bit in how Eddie Julian is being used at AAA, playing a little bit of first base. Because I could see if Eddie Julian can get hot there, give him a week, let's say, and he's playing well down there, I think they could make the swap, send Kirilloff down, or maybe even send Kirilloff down and bring Brooks Lee up, for goodness sake.
You are down an outfielder then, though, and then you're going to see Margot in the outfield a lot more. I'm not sure logistically if that's the move they want to make, but I think I'd be okay with it unless Kirilloff can figure it out.
Well, here's the deal, too. You can move Willie Castro out to the outfield again if you need to. And so you've got him, you've got Larnach, you've got Kepler, you've got Buxton. I agree we'll see some Margot more as well, but he actually has been playing a whole lot better over the last couple weeks. So I don't have a huge issue with that.
Well, I'm a little disappointed, too, sort of tangentially connected, is Jose Miranda clearly doesn't look at home at first base, which is sort of what I think is driving Julian taking shots at first at AAA.
Who do you got?
Yeah, I got to go with Max Kepler, and I hate to do this to my boy. He goes 3 for 13, but he looked bad, Dan. Inside sliders, he can't see them. He got hit by one of them, and he still swung at it, Dan. What is he doing here? So he has 6 strikeouts. He just doesn't look right, and I got to be honest, watching Connor Joe in right field made me think maybe Max Kepler isn't the best right fielder in the league.
That's blasphemy too, David. Yeah, different field. We'll see. He's going to be back at Target Field for the next week and a half, so we'll see how he plays that. And I guess we can go on here to Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
I'll go first. I liked that Rocco, who is known for managing losses well, managed to come back and win Game 3. Brought in Duran late in Game 2, which is a funny stat that I think we've talked about before. But so Duran, with 10 save opportunities, he's closed them all out, only allowing 1 earned run. In 7, and now 8, I guess, non-save opportunities, 7 earned runs. It's like if he doesn't have the big walk-up music, if he doesn't have the big, fire everybody up, it seems that he's just not having control. It's a weird stat, but I don't know what to make of that.
Do you think Rocco is thinking about that at all? Or do you just think it's some bad luck that he just can't pitch unless the game's on the line, specifically at the end of it?
I do think it's bad luck because here's why he's bringing him in. He's bringing him in to face top half of lineup kind of situations. Because we've seen him even come in, with a lead to come in and face guys in the 7th or the 8th inning because they're the kind of the bigger hitters. So I do think it's a little bit of both there, and I think it'll probably work itself out. But I do like that Rocco is using him in those moments and being aggressive.
I think Rocco made good decisions overall. I feel weird that we're both praising him in a series that they lost 2-1. But yeah, I think he made a lot of good decisions. The only thing that maybe is questionable is in Game 3, you probably could have pulled Ober sooner. I mean, in that bottom of the 5th inning, I understand that your bullpen is a bit taxed at this point and you don't have an off day tomorrow, but my goodness, Ober was getting hit and he had no control of the strike zone whatsoever.
Well, and it wasn't that taxed because they only used Griffin Jacks in Game 1 out of the bullpen, so you do have some options there, but you're probably planning in, I would say after the whole series now, they are a little bit taxed, so let's hope they can get some good starts in this Rockies series.
One other question for you, Dan. So top 9, Royce is on second with no outs. It's a tie game. Do you not think about treating this like extras? And I understand it's Correa, Kepler, Miranda coming up, but do you not think about just having Correa lay down a bunt and get Lewis over to third?
But when have you ever seen Carlos Correa lay down a bunt? Like, does he do that?
No, but I understand that because of where you are in the lineup, it'd be a more difficult decision to make. But to me, Dan, if all you have to do is get through the bottom of the 9th and 1 run will win it for you, I think you got to take that at least as a thought, right? Like, you wouldn't even consider it, I guess, if you were the manager is what I'm asking.
I wouldn't in that spot because those guys aren't bunters. Now, give me ironically, the bottom third of the lineup where you got guys like Castro and Jeffers who can do that. Yeah, I absolutely do. And Jeffers even tried to lay one down in extra innings too. So you got to rely on your top hitters to be able to get a hit with 3 chances there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. With the way that Kepler has been swinging the bat, it's sort of like with 2 chances, I guess is what I'd say with those
probably
guys
true.
Coming
up.
Minnesota moment.
We're both in Game 3, Dan, but why don't we start with you?
Yeah, Game 3, top of the first. The Twins score, but it's ugly. This is not how you want to be scoring runs. Single, Pirates error. Walk, wild pitch, passed ball. Willie Castro probably got plunked somewhere there. That would have been fitting. And the fact that they only had the 3 runs out of that felt like it wasn't going to be enough. Even with Ober on the mound, who, you'd hope he could hold this lineup down, but not that the way that he had been pitching lately, not that the way that the Pirates had been able to hit in clutch situations. It ended up not being enough, really. You hope you get more out of that. That said, it broke a 2-game scoreless streak. So in that way, it was still significant.
It didn't give you any confidence, though, that the offense had figured it out. Like, it was dumb luck that they they got those runs across the plate.
What about you? You got the end of the game.
Game 3, top 10. I just think it's so funny that the Twins put up more runs, Dan, in this inning than the rest of the series combined. And that's including the first 9 innings of Game 3, which is sort of incredible when you think about it. But the way they win this one, of course, as you mentioned, Manny Margot hits a triple, which scores Farmer, giving the Twins the lead of 5-4. And if you were worried and you're thinking that's not enough, don't worry about it, because the Pirates didn't care, Dan. At that point, they had one pitcher left, and they just kept him in there until he died. But it went Buxton's hit by a pitch. He steals second. Jeffers walks. Castro, of course, is hit by a pitch. Santana then hits a 2-run double. Correa hits a 2-run double with the infield in, I might add. Then Kepler, seemingly by mistake, hits a single, which scores Correa. Farmer's hit by a pitch, and then Margot singles. It just kept going around, Dan. It just kept happening, and it's like, when is this going to stop? I think we have enough runs.
Ben Heller, the Pirates pitcher, has now made 2 appearances for the Pirates this season. In those, he has given up 9 hits, 12 runs, 11 earned. Just 1 home run even. His ERA is 49.50. It's like the price of gas when I fill up my car or something like that. Like, it's just, poor guy. I think this is on Derek Shelton, and they were talking about this on the TV broadcast. Former, Twins secondhand man Derek Shelton is managing the Pirates, and he had no intention of bringing anybody else in. And I'm thinking, why not bring a position player in? Like, you can do that once you're down 6 or 7 runs. I was stunned they left poor Ben Heller in there. This cannot be good management. And again, plunking Willie Castro, plunking Byron Buxton. He's just making players mad. Byron Buxton has gotten hurt by getting hit by a pitch. All these players have been injured by getting hit by a pitch. Nobody wanted to stand in that box.
No, I was especially nervous. They started talking about that when Royce Lewis was in the box, and it's like, why are you trying to jinx Royce Lewis? Like, do you really want him back on the IL? I don't understand it.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
I kind of wanted Royce to say in that spot, you know what? I'm out. Just, you can take me now. Like, I don't need the bat.
What do you call it? An intentional out? Is that the opposite of an intentional walk? Like, you know what? I'm good. Goes and sits.
Well, before we move on, David, surely you know that when something is the OG, it's special. It's the original. It's where it all started. And that's what OG Zaza Pizza is. It's pizza as it was meant to be. Located inside Potluck Food Hall at Rosedale Center, OG Zaza serves up New Haven-style pizzas, Caesar salad, and big-ass breadsticks that are literally 2 feet long. For the month of June, all pizzas are $10 after 5 p.m. every day of the week. You heard that right. Just $10. So stop in and take advantage of this delicious deal.
Sounds absolutely delicious, Dan. Let's keep going here. Mauer's Musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
Dan, I would like you to look at the Twins rotation and give me, in order, which pitchers you have the most confidence in.
Sure. So it's got to be Joe Ryan right now, number 1. It looked lights out. Then it's got to be SWR. I think, right now. After that, it's Pablo Lopez, because I do think he's going to be better by the end of the year than he is now. And then I think David Festa, probably. And then Bailey Ober and Chris Paddock, because I think I'm ready. Like, I think I'm ready for them to call up somebody else here and kind of mix up this rotation a little.
For my list, it goes Joe Ryan and then nobody else. Damn, that's my entire list of confidence I have in the rotation. But I think this segues well into your question.
Yeah, so I guess, would you shake up the rotation? I kind of just hinted at this. Or would you ride this out and hope for improvement? Because I believe it was Aaron Gleeman tweeted something about this, and I apologize, I don't have the exact stats in front of me. But Joe Ryan and SWR have been great, and everybody else has been, among the worst starters in the American League for the last month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, I don't think that giving Festa a start would be a bad thing. I guess I'm just curious from a transaction standpoint. Are you just sort of flipping SWR and Festa just for the roster? And even if it's simply transactional and SWR is still going to make his next start, maybe it's a little bit delayed. I do kind of wonder if that's sort of a hit to the confidence that we don't really need at this moment. And none of the other guys I don't think you're going to be able to send down without there being some question marks there.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe we can hope for a rain out here so that they can get that kind of bonus roster spot and we can see Festa make an appearance or something like that. Or maybe they finagle, they send a reliever down and they go to a 6-man rotation for a week just to kind of make that work. Because they have a couple off days coming up here in June still. So we'll see. I just want something to shake this up. I'm not a big fan of we're going to bring up Festa just to scare the other starters into pitching better. Like, I don't think that works like that. But I do think that there's something to be said for shaking things up to maybe try to change the rhythm of this starting rotation just a little bit.
Could be, Dan. We'll see. It would be fun to see David Festa at the major league level, which, is going to happen sooner or later. But with the way the rotation is, as you've mentioned, sooner is probably better.
All right. Well, let's go on here to the series grades.
Series grades.
I got to give them a D+, Dan. I think this was like a post-Yankee hangover. They forgot that they're a team that's good enough to beat bad teams because they looked like they were facing just the fiercest opponent that they could possibly dream up. And it's the Pirates, Dan. They're under 500. They're not a good baseball team. Even if their pitching is as good as they appeared in this series, you think they could have mustered a couple of runs in these first couple of games, right?
With, let's say, 2 hits with runners in scoring position, though,
yeah,
we look at this series entirely differently. That's just how narrow the margin was, especially in game 2. If that happens when it's only a 2-run game and the Twins are able to tie the game, take the lead or something like that, this is very possibly a series win on the road, and we're probably happy about that.
Yes, I'm going with a D+, and I just don't think I have a lot of wiggle room there, Dan.
No, I went with, it's going to be an F, but advanced retreat, according to, again, this handy graph that Andy made for us, 4 out of 10. I just think you go on the road against a sub 500 team, you want to be able to win 2 out of 3 still. And then well played baseball, just as I alluded to, the lack of hitting, the lack of decent pitching there from Bailey Ober in the middle. I just think that's a 5 out of 10. This is a 9 out of 20. This is another failed job here to be able to can they just play mediocre baseball for a little while here? Like, it's the ups and the downs. It's just very hard to get a read on what this team is.
I guess I think you're a little bit harsh on the well-played baseball here from the pitching side. Like, the hitting side, absolutely. But, I mean, a pitching perspective, in those first 2 games, and they gave up 3 and 4 runs. That's not insane. They weren't like blowouts here. And I understand that Ober struggled. But for the most part, I mean, most of the guys did their job.
I guess I can talk myself up into a 6 or a 7, but here's the thing about the rubric. It's still an F when they add it all up.
Of course. Okay, well, let's go on to Herbie's headlines where we have a theme, Dan. I'm very excited about this.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbie pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So the theme, Dan, is things that David knows nothing about. Now, I would say there are probably more than a few listeners out there who feel that baseball is also one of those subjects. But for the sake of this particular segment, geography, as has been expressed on the podcast before, I am not great at. And all of these have a geographical component, Dan. First, the Phillies and the Mets, again, baseball, I would argue I know a little bit about baseball. Those are both baseball teams. I don't know if you're familiar, Dan. Mm-hmm. But they played in London, which, again, London, I mean, I could shoot a dart over in Europe. I'm guessing it's on an island, I think, right? One of the islands. I'm just not exactly sure which one. But so they played. And if you didn't have a chance to watch any of these games, it's super fascinating to watch foreign fans watch a very American sport. But Dan brought this to me before the show, the radio call of the end of the game this morning on Sunday. I have never wanted to watch baseball in a foreign land more. So we're going to have Dan play this because it's that good.
Yeah, here we go. We got this actually from John Boy Media. We'll just play kind of the beginning of it here.
With the pressure on his shoulders, and Castellanos' bat explodes, and they're going to get the runner at home. They're going to get the double play to win the game. What an end! The shattered bat, the runner out at home plate, and the ball fired into the glove. And the first baseman, Pete Alonso, and the New York Mets somehow withstand the Phillies rally, and they win Game 2 in London 6-5, 17 hits. What drama, what a game, what a finish.
Now, I know that you're not...
What drama, what a game, what a finish. Dan, baseball is a very sort of blue-collar sport, and that used to not always be the case, right? Like, you always see those old pictures of guys in suits going to the games. This is what baseball needs to bring some class back to the sport, Dan, because I can't even explain how excited this made me, Dan.
So I know you're not a soccer guy.
But I could be, I guess, with this guy.
Well, okay, so this is why you should give soccer a chance. It's the announcing. It's fantastic because in a sport where nothing seems to happen, the announcing is all the more important. Right? It's like golf to me. Like, announcing is very important in golf too. It's crucial in soccer. But that call, the broken bat, it's
so good.
Oh my
God. It is so good, and I absolutely love it. And honestly, there's probably a good chance that that's a large percentage of the reason I like F1 is because of the announcers being British. Anyway, moving on here to the next...
Are you saying that if I spoke in an accent, you would like me more? Because that's kind of what I'm hearing here.
Oh, Dan, how could I possibly like you any more than I do?
Thanks, David. Anyway, more things, though. I love this theme. This is great.
Caitlin Clark was left off the Team USA roster. This kept me up last night, Dan. I was just thinking, oh, man, how dare they? day.
You know, this is a big deal. I live in a family with a lot of Hawkeyes fans, and so I hear a lot about Caitlin Clark on the family chats and things like that. But I don't know. She's a rookie. How often do rookies make these Team USA rosters?
I have no idea, Dan. Again, the theme of this segment is things I know absolutely nothing about. And the last note here, Dan, I guess, do you have any thoughts on Caitlin Clark?
No, I have thoughts, but we're too far in.
Last thing that I know nothing about, the men's USA cricket team beats Pakistan. And I guess, first of all, that's not supposed to happen. That much I know. But other than that, I still don't understand cricket. I've watched John Boy's videos, and I have to watch them in that way where he explains them to like I would explain baseball to a 3-year-old, where he's like, he's going to throw the ball, and he gets to throw it 2 times. But if he hits it, I'm just like, I still don't have any idea what's happening. But it's super exciting that Team USA, first of all, I didn't know we had a cricket team. And second of all, we beat a team that's obviously far superior than ours.
But like, I feel kind of bad. I mean, like, this is something the rest of the world has on us, certainly, right? This would be like Team USA winning like the World Cup. Like, we don't deserve that. The rest of the world cares a whole lot more about this than we do. Also, aren't cricket matches like 4 days long or something like that? I don't know how long this one went. It depends on the style.
I know that there's different kinds of cricket, and there's some that are like quicker, like normal length games, and then there's some that, go for days. I don't really know how it works.
We probably should not have segments like this anymore because it's clear that we don't know anything about anything other than baseball.
I think it's great radio. Like I said, if anything, it's confirmation bias to those people who don't think we know anything already, Dan.
All right.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
Well, the listeners are not doubting, Dan. They are jumping on that Royce Lewis train. They think he's going to turn it around, and then it will go to you.
Yeah, I think I just like the way that Jose Moran has been hitting the baseball.
I am not throwing away my shot.
So I'm gonna stick with him this series.
Yeah, and Hogs is gonna take Carlos Correa.
I want to build a championship culture.
And as much as I just dogged him, Dan, I'm doing it. Max Kepler back on the bubble here. He's my guy, Dan. He's gonna turn it around because he knows that my Puckett's pick streak needs to stay alive.
Look at that. Everybody gets a sounder there. Except for Royce. We didn't throw his in there, but that's okay.
He is the one.
There you go. All right. Let's hope so. I mean, Royce Lewis is showing his humanity here in a way that I'm not comfortable with.
Well, if you think of Royce Lewis as Batman, and Pittsburgh is the city of steel, and Superman is the Man of Steel, clearly there's some sort of Superman versus Batman dynamic at play.
I think this is like a math property that you're talking about here.
Could be. Well, with that, Dan, I think since you're going to be gone next episode, why don't you go ahead and send us out?
Will do. Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win and find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or a like, we would greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in our description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.